Hello, and welcome to the Community Improvement Fund podcast. I am Davey Smith.
And I'm Andrew Smith.
And we are your co-founders of the Community Improvement Fund and co-presidents, and also your host of this podcast. Welcome back. If you've seen our previous videos, welcome for the first time. If this is your first time viewing, we appreciate you. Just wanted to give a quick update today before jumping into current event discussion. So we are currently $1,000 away from enrolling our next person into our basic income, our flagship program. So quick reminder, hey, head on over to the website. One, apply to be in the running to get selected. It could be you getting the next payment. And two, if you'd like to support us monetarily, you can go there and donate. Also, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Every view helps. Every like helps even more. Every subscribe helps even more than that. So yeah.
Also, if you're watching on YouTube, which you are, let us know what you think in the comments. Like if you like what we're doing, if you think we should be doing something different or approaching something differently, or if you like agree or disagree with anything we say on here, if we make a mistake, anything like that, reach out to us. We'll probably reply to you if you comment to us. So because we don't have a ton of comments right now.
Yeah, and I know our last video had some mistakes and some errors, some factual errors. I try to cite those whenever possible when I do the editing to make sure, we clarify if we give a wrong name or something. I wanted to make sure we call that out. We want to give facts here. And I don't always have notes in front of me to look, and I probably should, but I don't. 100% if you see something, hear something, say something, and we will make sure and correct that. So, you want to lead us off going into today's topic?
Yeah, so today we wanted to talk about student loans. Student loans are a big deal. A lot of people in the United States deal with it, and it's just a big part of a lot of people's budget and just their ongoing life. So we kind of wanted to talk about student loans, college, the value of college. Is it worth it? And then some policy we can get into too. So I'll kick it off by giving a few statistics. So I was doing a little research, and I found that the average loan balance that people have, and again, this is in the United States, is $29,000. So almost $30,000, and that's all outstanding student loans. And that's, how much you have left to pay off now.
Not how much you took out,
right?
How much you have left to pay.
Yep. So that's the average, 29,000. 92% of student loans are federal from the government, which means around 8% are private. You have anything to say? Any first thoughts? Any general thoughts about?
I'll wait till you wrap up your stats.
Okay, and I don't have too much else. Let's actually pause here because I wanna take the next stat is a little bit in a different direction.
Okay.
So obviously, like, it's kind of like calling it a student loan crisis is kind of popular these days. Like, you'll see a lot of news organizations and like many documentaries call it a student loan crisis. And like, I think really the issue is that people take out really high loans and they either don't end up getting the degree, so they drop out.
Yeah.
And so you don't have the value of a degree, yet you have the burden of your student loans that you took out.
And that is a very, very common thing that happens. So people all the time take out a bunch of student loans. They show up to college for 2 years. Life happens, right? You don't get to complete a degree, and now you're just stuck with that debt. Like, you don't get a refund on student loan debt, right? If you don't make it to your degree, like it's on you at that point.
And so even if you end up getting your degree, there's a ton of people that are underemployed. So they have the running joke is like, you have an English degree and you're a barista at Starbucks, right?
Or your degree is not that profitable. So like, hey, I have a philosophy degree, but I'm $200,000 in debt to get there. And I'm, to clarify at the top, I don't think that is a bad thing. I don't think you should only pursue valuable degrees. We need philosophers. We need English majors. We need people. So I am 100% against this whole. Well, why did you take why did you get a gender studies? I think that's a popular punching bag, right?
So let's get into this in a second, but we can get into it right now. So I agree that philosophy and like gender studies, liberal arts degrees are valuable, but you probably shouldn't go into debt if that's the degree you're going to get, right?
Well,
that's the pushback I have.
You should have a realistic expectation of how much money you're going to be able to generate with a degree.
That's what I'm saying. If you're going to, and I mean, some people make a lot of money with philosophy degrees, or you can make a lot of money with any degree.
Yeah.
But the odds, like the average degree of a philosophy major is probably pretty low, or at least like average. Not enough to pay back $200,000 in student loans.
Yeah. So I had a friend in college. He didn't go to my college. I went to Georgia Tech. Well, they don't offer degrees like this, but
you don't have philosophy at Georgia Tech?
They do. They have stuff like that. But he had a degree in Latin. Latin was what he was pursuing. So for those of you who are not unfamiliar, Latin is a dead language. No one speaks Latin anymore. It is useful because there's like, it was kind of the English of the ancient world, where it was kind of the language of trade. Everyone spoke it. So it's useful in like academia.
If you're a general linguist, like Latin, the traces of Latin are throughout a bunch of different languages, but like there are no cutting edge firms hiring Latin majors, right?
Right. And so your only real option with a degree in Latin is academia. So, right, like you have a professor of Latin who is teaching other people so they can go be professors of Latin and they can study Latin.
Which is valuable.
There's value in that, but you're not going to make, if you're not going to make six figures, most likely, annual salary with a job that involves Latin.
Right. So this is where I land on it. So there obviously, like I said earlier, you can get a Latin degree without going into debt. You just have to. So this is what the cost of college has gone up really fast,
tremendously
faster than everything else. So it is more expensive relatively to get a degree now than it used to be. However, so looking back on like my own experience and like people I knew, their experiences, like I think it's pretty easy. I don't know. Do you think it's like, is it easy just to say, I can go to a local, at least like a public college in my home state where it's easier to get scholarships. It's easier to get financial aid. I think you can pretty much pull off whatever you want to do. I think it's people that want to go for whatever reason. They want to go out of state. They want to go to a private university and maybe don't have the means to afford it or something like that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
So I'll answer that question in two parts. First is with a real world anecdote. So when I was at orientation for my job straight out of college, all I have to my name is a college degree. I have no experience, no nothing. So all things equal, I have a college degree. There was a guy in my class, right, my onboarding class, who had a computer science degree from Covenant College, which, for those of you that don't know, is about 10 minutes from where we grew up. Our mom
if you go out on our back porch, you can see it.
Yeah. So, and it's a local school. It's a private school. You can, to my knowledge, it's less expensive than a big state school.
I don't know.
I would think so. I would also think financial aid would be easier to come by. It's certainly cheaper than a huge state school. It has to be. But because a huge percentage of what I paid was room and board, right? And so for this guy,
if you're a commuter college,
well, this guy was local. Yeah, this guy is a local guy, and so he was able to live at home. He went to Covenant College for 4 years, got a computer science degree. I went to Georgia Tech for 4 years, got a computer science degree. I guarantee you, I paid more total than he did, and here we are sitting in the same class. So I think, and sitting and for the same job, right? We are entering with the same salary, same job. So for that comparison, I have to say, having that name brand degree. I'm gonna say name brand degree helps you get your foot in the door, right? Places love seeing that Georgia Tech degree on a computer science for a software engineering job. Like, it just makes life easier for you. But once you're in it, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, if you're either competent or you're not, and your skills are going to carry you from there.
See, I don't. Yeah, so I agree with everything you said, but I don't like the fact. I don't think you should decide where to go to college based on how much money you're going to make. Like, I think it's obviously going to be a factor, and we've talked about this before. Like, we may have talked about this on the first or second episode, but it's worth revisiting. Like, I just think there's more to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's the kind of the back half of my answer is, if you can leave home and go to college somewhere else, please do it.
I mean, even if it's in the same city, like if you go to UTC, I would recommend living there.
Yeah. Living on campus opened my eyes to a lot of things. So when I was at home, I was in like an echo chamber, basically, right? That's the whole life I knew, right? Not a lot of diverse opinions being discussed, right? In just small local community, it's kind of, there's just one way of thinking. Going off to a college just opened my eyes to, like, wow, people have some really different opinions than mine, and there's a lot of them out there. Some that I had never even considered in my wildest dreams, and I'm like, oh man, like, this is out there. And you really do gain a lot of perspective. People say the same thing about traveling, and I would agree, right? Like, going to experience different cultures. It's the same concept, right? You're just being exposed to things that you're not going to get at home. Now, it's expensive, right? Living on campus at a college is expensive across the board, right? I mean, you're a cornered market. It's great. I like it, but it is expensive. So in the context of student loans, right, if you're going to a local college, is it worth it? Is it worth the significant expense to go and live on campus versus staying at home and saving that change?
Yeah, so I want to address like the cost of college in a second, but first, so I agree with what you said, and like, a lot of it's well known. Moving out of your hometown, moving out of your parents' house, it does open your eyes. Meeting a diverse group of people is going to give you new perspectives. But I also think just putting yourself in a different situation than you've been in, getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. Because, like, I know when I first moved to Nashville, I was 18 right out of college. Like, I actually remember, so, like, I moved in, like, the first week of August, and it was until Halloween. Like, that whole time, like, I was super uncomfortable. Like, I was like, I don't know anybody. Like, I don't have any friends. Like, there's a few people in my hall that I talk to. I'm not doing as well in my classes as I did in high school, right? My classes are harder. I'm kind of lonely. But I remember, like, on Halloween, so the end of October, so 3 whole months, I just didn't know what I was doing. But on Halloween, like, I wasn't going into a Halloween party or anything because I didn't know anybody. But there were 8 or 9 other guys on my hall that were like, we got nothing to do either. Like, let's go play basketball at the rec. So we all went and played basketball. And, like, I'm still friends with those guys I met on Halloween my first semester today. So anyways, that was kind of a tangent. But like I was saying, opening your eyes to new perspectives within yourself that don't have to come from meeting diverse people. Like, I met a lot of people in college that were very similar to me. But I liked the experience of living. So once you're there, right, you've got everything paid for. You've got your housing. You've got a meal plan. You go to class 15 to like 18 hours a week, plus homework. So I would say you're probably like working 20 to 25 hours a week on a normal week, which is pretty chill, right? It's not 40. You've got a lot of free time.
Well, I didn't have a lot. I think that depends on where you go. Georgia Tech, I was loaded. At times, I was loaded down. I was putting in 60 hours. So
I mean, yeah, but not every week. It ebbs
I
and-
mean,
I would say it
ebbs and flows. Yeah, yeah. There are definitely times in the semester where you can catch a break. But to your point, like there's a lot of people look back on college and they're like, this is the best time of my life, and I think it has to be a large part because of the freedom that
of the
you have.
lifestyle. It's
yeah,
the lifestyle.
yeah, exactly. Like you don't get that again, right? Because now you're working, you've got 40 hours a week. I mean, I have a fairly laid back job. I don't do a lot of longer than 40-hour weeks.
Yeah.
I don't take my work home with me. I don't have anything to do after hours. But it's still like 9 to 5 every day,
Sucks.
Monday to Friday. That's a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
and in college too. Even if I have classes all day, like on Monday, Wednesday, I had classes all day usually, but it's not really all day, right? I got like a 2-hour break for lunch. I've got 30 minutes in between classes here and there. Like
And
that's
you're also like most of the time, I know especially at Vanderbilt, like you're walking through nature
yeah.
when you're going from here to there. And so like I was really active when I was in college. Like I would never use an elevator. I would go up and down stairs, whenever I had to. I was outside constantly because you're going from building to building. So this is what I'm saying, that being in that lifestyle, like 90% inspired like my obsession with universal basic income, because I'm like, why? Like this is so good,
Right.
like working quote unquote 25 whatever, how many hours a week you want, but being able I'm not worried about bills. I know this is where I live. I'm not worried about getting kicked out. I know I can go downstairs and get a meal anytime I want. Like this is how life should be, right?
Right.
This is it. I'm 2 doors away from 12 of my best friends. Like we've got a squad, right? I have a little community, and like we go out to eat, we hang out together, we play video games, we go play basketball whenever we want, right? We go throw a frisbee around in the yard. This, like, why would we stop doing that? Why can we only do that for 4 years and then we have to move into the real world?
Yeah.
Why does it have to stop?
And like all those like extra benefits too. Like I found like several passions while going to college that had nothing to do with computer science, right? Like I had a bunch of friends that we played Super Smash Brothers on the GameCube, right? I mean, I played that before college, and I was like, oh man, I thought I was the only person that liked this game, and now there's a club for it. I have like 4 really close friends to this day, right? And we're like, that's how we met, right? We basically like, hey, we're gonna, I had this GameCube, right, that I brought with me to college for some reason, and then it's just like it worked out that way. So I mean, it's something, having that access to that community and having the free time to act on things like that. I mean, it just does wonder for you. I mean, like, there's a reason why people in their 30s don't have close friends on average, right? Like, I don't. I mean, how many close friends do I have compared to college? It's pathetic, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I can still text those guys I went to college with, and I do, but sometimes they'll text me and it'll be like 4 days before I can text them back, just because I've got other stuff going on. And they'll say the same thing to me. They're like, "Oh, sorry, I'm not trying to ignore you." I'm like, "Dude, I get it, right? Like, it's just, life's tough." But
Yeah, I'm still fairly close with my friend group from college. Like we all live in different cities now, which is dumb. But we get together a couple times a year. We're in a fantasy football league together. But so one other thing I wanted to say about like living in a college and experiencing that community, and this is a problem I have with online programs where you only take core classes,
right,
is getting exposure to cross-disciplinary whatevers, like what some of the, like, I have a degree in economics, but some of the most valuable classes I took in college, I think, were the history of World War II class that I took, right? I took a nutrition class that was super useful. And whatever, like, people take all kinds of stuff. I took a class on the blues. So getting exposure to that, like, I'm not an expert in anything that I studied in college, but I have the foundation of a lot of different disciplines and that makes me more discerning when I read articles about something about chemistry or biology or whatever, like political science, because I took some poli-sci classes. It gives me a little bit of a basis for understanding that helps me figure out what's right and wrong in the real world, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, to your point, I was a mechanical engineering major and was forced to take a intro to programming. Basically, it's called like programming for engineers, and turns out, hey, I really like this computer programming stuff. I'm actually like it so much, I'm going to change my whole degree, right? And so that's how I ended up where I am. And to your point, I know we had an experience recently where we were talking like about some basic algebra with some family members, and I'm talking like pretty basic stuff, right? And they were like, well, what are the like, I can't really handle when they put letters in math. And to me, it's like, and if you're somebody that thinks that way, right? I'm not dogging on you, you know. Like math is one of the worst taught subjects in high schools. So, and if you only have a high school education, I understand why you would hate math. But it's like that is such an important skill to have. Basic algebra, you might not know it, but it's everywhere, right? It's in your daily life. You run into it probably several times a week, and you can do it on a basic level even if you don't quite understand the nomenclature, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, you know, we have a really big problem right now with misinformation and people just like accepting what they see. And I give people some slack because before the internet was your source for news, your source for news was like the 6 o'clock news, right? Where some dude in a suit got on with his gelled hair. And,
Brian Williams, before he lied about being in a helicopter in Afghanistan.
Yeah, that guy was telling you the truth, allegedly. But I mean, no, on the real though, their news was different then than it is now. News today is entertainment.
Well, yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I mean, most of it.
Yeah, most of it. And so you have to be able to discern, here's someone just telling me facts about what happened today, and, oh, here's someone trying to influence my opinion on something, right? Because, I mean,
Right.
Really, ideally, you should be seeking out information, and then you should use that information to form your opinion. You shouldn't be getting someone's opinion, them feeding you only things that support that opinion, and then you just parrot it back to people.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard to avoid, though, right?
It is.
Because, like, I don't have the bandwidth to be able to form an opinion on 100 different things. Sometimes I need to find somebody, whether it's on a podcast or something that I know thinks in a similar way to me, and let them tell me what their opinion is on something, and me just, okay, I'll look into it later. But for now, like, I'm gonna store that away, right? That's easy
Right.
enough.
And I know some of the media outlets I prefer have a left lean to them, but I take that into account when I read the story. And sometimes it's egregious, right? Sometimes you're like, all right, this is but you have to be careful, because if you come into it and you're just thinking this is just the way it is, then maybe you're getting a lot of spin that you don't realize you're getting.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge the spin, and also you have to be able to discern, like, all right, like, is this person just really mad about this, and do I need to look up some other information?
Yeah, do they have an agenda that they're trying to push?
Like I said, I listen to people who I think like me, and if you think like Alex Jones and you go listen to Alex Jones, you're in a bad spot, right? So
right.
It's going to be
and you have to realize, like, he's playing a character. From the court filings I've seen, he
admitted that he doesn't.
He has claimed in court that he is a character, that it's a character, and
I think that's after the fact that he's superimposed.
Potentially, but you have to be. I mean, the real world is not the internet, right? And you got to be
I mean,
painfully aware
everybody's
of
a
that.
character.
And yeah, I mean, everyone's a character, but like the internet's a different place, right? You're driving clicks, right? I mean, you're saying, especially when you're that level, right, and it's your livelihood, you're saying whatever gets you the most views, and that's not necessarily in the best interest of everybody.
All right, I got a stat for you.
All right,
let's
let's
get
hear
it back to student loans.
Sure, let's hear it.
2.4 million people who are age 62 plus still owe on their student loans.
I believe it.
Well, yeah, that's a fact. So,
Well, yeah, no, I mean, it
So-
doesn't surprise me.
yeah.
I
But-
think
No, go
one
ahead.
one of the big factors in that has to be that student loans don't get absolved by bankruptcy. I don't know what the stats are on how many people experience bankruptcy, at least one time in their lives.
And how many of those have student loans?
Yeah, but just for people out there, if you file bankruptcy, your student loans don't get absolved. Everything else does, right? Bankruptcy is a good thing ultimately, right? Like you're getting a clean slate when you're in over your head. So I appreciate that. I respect that. But student loans don't go away. To just give the argument for why that is, as a student, you don't really have any way to pay it back, right? Like there's no guarantee you're going to get a good paying job and be able to take out this massive, right? You have no credit at that point. Like you have nothing to put up to say, hey, I can pay this back. So, it's a way to lower the risk of handing out those kind of loans for the lender.
Who is the government?
Who is the government? Yeah. So it's kind of, but you could argue that if it wasn't the case, it would be far too easy to graduate and then immediately file for bankruptcy, absolve your debt while you don't have any assets really, and then try to start new. I'm not of that opinion, but you could make the argument.
So I've got a few policy suggestions I would like to hear your thoughts about. So
Sure.
So obviously there's a few different things at play here. Number one, college is probably overpriced, like it's too expensive. And then you have like the loan side of maybe it's too easy to get a loan, it's too easy to take out more than you need. And then 18-year-olds really don't they don't even think about paying it, like how much the monthly cost of paying it back is. Am I getting a good interest rate? Stuff like that. So I know this is becoming more popular recently, but I really think that at least community colleges and like commuter colleges in your home state should be tuition free. If not, so
Right.
So there's a movement out there to make all public universities and colleges tuition free. So I don't know how realistic that is. Like that might be super costly to do it that way, but at least like outside of your main like whatever state, the university of insert name of state here, outside of those really big ones, the smaller ones, I don't have a problem with being tuition free. Just pay room and board, right? And buy
Right.
books and stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to have a really educated population if you want to succeed as a country in the long term, right? Like if you're falling behind in education, that's a recipe for disaster, right? I mean, the world's getting more advanced, right? Jobs are getting more advanced. Computers are now everywhere, right? If you don't know how to work a computer, you're in trouble. It didn't used to be that way, right? You could get a good job in a factory. You made enough to buy support a family of 4, had a nice 2-bedroom house. You didn't really need a lot of specialized skills to work in a factory, right? Manual labor, it paid well. It doesn't pay well anymore, right? First and foremost, right? Throw that out there. It doesn't pay good anymore. Your well-paying jobs are typically more technical. And I'm not saying more technical as in you absolutely have to have a degree, because like there are specialty jobs as well, like welding, that does pay well, but you also have to you're an expert in welding, right? So it requires some kind of education to be good.
Skilled labor.
It's skilled labor. So I think you need a population who is skilled and who has the ability to provide skilled labor. And we're basically headed in the opposite direction as far as I can tell. I mean, on a long-term trend line, I'm sure we have more people who are educated now than in the past. I'm sure that's the case.
Yes, but they also have $100,000
Yes.
or $30,000
Right.
student loan.
Right. Which is a huge problem. I mean,
So I would also come at it with an angle of, like we're also living in an age of artificial intelligence
yes.
and efficiency and abundance to the level of where, in my opinion, not all of us need to have a good paying job necessarily for society to function, right? Labor is less necessary than it used to be because a computer can't plant seeds in the ground when I guess I can now, but whatever. So let's say you have someone who is either not cut out for like a really technical, like mathy kind of job, or they're just not interested in that. Maybe they're an artist instead. So if college is expensive, what you're telling this person is, and they know, like they have no interest in pursuing a high paying job and a high paying discipline. So like I want to go to school and learn how to cook or learn how to sculpt, paint, whatever, something artsy, which we know isn't going to pay well, most likely. So you're telling that person, well, you're going to have to go in a lot of debt and never be able to pay it off to pursue this passion, right?
Right.
So I think societally, as a community, we need artists and stuff like that that it doesn't have as big of a payout in the marketplace, but it's still really valuable. Like I don't want to live in a world with no musicians and no artists. So
yeah, and
if it's free or cheap to pursue that, then you're not pricing those people out. So like this person doesn't say, well, shoot, I can't afford college. I guess I can't. I guess I'm just going to have to self-teach. Like I can't pursue my passion at a higher level than I can do on my own. Right.
yeah. And you kind of you touched on this a little bit, but like, I honestly sit here and ask myself, like, how do we have enough to do for everybody to have a 40-hour-a-week job?
We don't.
We absolutely don't,
Yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination. So I've heard an anecdote dealing with this, right, is that you have a factory of 40 people and the boss owns the factory and a new machine comes out to automate part of this process. And you introduce the machine and now all of a sudden you've doubled your productivity by introducing the machine. Well, you have 40 people and now you only need 20 people. What do? If you want to maximize profits, you lay 20 people off. If you have different motivations, you could also say, hey, I'm cutting your hours in half and I'm going to pay you the same because productivity is the same, accounting for the cost of the machine, obviously. So all things equal, same output from both. When's the last time you have ever heard of a company taking option 2? Never. It just doesn't happen. But it could. Right? I mean, we have advances in technology every day that increase productivity. If you look at productivity, the chart you always see is productivity versus wages. I don't even care about wages in this case. I care about like man hours, right? We have an even larger workforce today than we did in 1970. Productivity is way exponentially higher than it was in 1970. What are we doing with what are we doing all day?
Yeah. So especially like in an office job, it's stupid. Like a 40-hour week is bullshit in an office.
Yeah.
There's no reason. So the counter argument is like a restaurant, right? But because like you need like you need waiters and waitresses. But I would say you would have a shift that works Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then like a weekend shift or whatever. Like, you can we've both worked in a restaurant. You can move your hours around when
Right.
you're working like that. Yeah, so I think already though, isn't it 35 hours is like considered full time to where you get benefits? Is that a thing? Wasn't that an Obama policy?
I've heard some. So there's been some talk recently about lowering it to 32. I don't know if it's 35 or 40 right now, but so a 40-hour work week is 5 8-hour days.
32 would be 4.
32 would be 4.
There's
Which is
no reason to work on Friday.
no, absolutely not.
Because
Honestly, so in my line of work, right? Support, after hours support is a big thing. Like if you screw something up during the 40 hours a week, what you end up doing is you have to fix it during the weekend or after hours. We have a rule, and it should be industry wide, honestly, but we have a rule like no deployments on Friday. We just won't do it because
so you don't mess anything
yeah,
up.
so you don't screw something up right before the weekend, right? I mean, why even? I mean, you get things done on Friday, but way less than other days. I'm telling you, you give people Friday off, they're gonna do everything they need to in 4 days. Anything I can do in 40 hours, I can do in 32 hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how much of an 8-hour day do you spend goofing off? Like, right? Not even if you're goofing off, but if you're just like being unproductive, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to do anything.
Right.
And also, like, I don't know. I think people are too in their head about like deadlines specifically, and saying, "Man, we really need to get this done," and like, it's not a big deal if you don't.
Yeah, it's like, dude,
Like, if you can chill a little bit, and I don't even think like GDP is not even going to go down that much. Productivity, what you're actually doing, is not going to go down if you just chill a little bit. And so I think 4-day work week minimum. People should have way more time off too.
Yeah, 2 weeks vacation is the standard in the U.S. and it is a joke.
I mean, I know a lot of people that have more though. Like I don't know. I haven't had. I've only recently gone into like the corporate world, and I started at 3 weeks. I don't know. I don't know if I know anybody that only has 2 weeks.
I started it too.
Really?
I started 2, and I didn't get 3 until I was 2 years in, I think. And then at 5 years, I got 4, which has been recent.
Yeah. See, I think you should start it at 4. And so there's also a problem though with PTO. It's a culture, maybe just an acceptance of like you only take 1 week at a time, right? Like if you want to take 2 weeks in a row, it's kind of a special circumstance. Like you're at that point you're almost taking like a leave of absence. And that's like stupid. Like I should be able to take a month off, right? Like if I want to take 3 weeks off, I can take 3. Like I should be able to take 3 weeks off.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not put on this earth to stare at a computer for 40 hours. Like
Yeah,
that's insane.
yeah. Well, part of it too is like, again, back to like some people are overloaded with responsibility. So a lot of times, like, there's one dude and he's the only guy that can do anything, and then it's all on him. So if he's out, nothing gets done. Like, hire somebody else, right? Like, you should at least have 2 people. What if that guy wins the lottery, right? You're never gonna see him again, and you're gonna burn to the ground. Like,
or if he gets hit by a bus,
yeah. I
on
mean,
the way to work,
yeah, like, it's nuts. I mean, you're literally one accident away from crippling yourself because you're unwilling to pay for somebody else so this guy can have a backup. And if you pay that person, guess they're both going to be happier, right? These 2 people are both being happy. They're both now employed. They both have to work less because there's 2 of them, and you also as the company benefit. But they just won't do it, and so it's like. But then again, everyone's employed, so what are all these people doing for 40 hours a week, right? Like it's just like, I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, you should have redundancy in your workforce. And I know I've been in several positions where this person was gone for 3 days. When they get back, they have a list of things to do a mile long. Because they're the only, like you said, they're the only person that can do it.
And then when they get back, good luck getting them anything else on their desk for the next week because they're slammed. So it's like, I mean, I'm dealing with that right now. Like on Monday, I've got a meeting that I've been trying to have since last Monday, but the only person that can help me is on vacation. It's just crazy. We're all taking ourselves way too seriously. First things first. Like work is work. Right? Like
your job's not that important at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Like the world, unless you're like the president or like a doctor or, it ain't that serious.
At least if you're the president, there's a clear succession plan.
Yeah, for real.
Vice and then speaker.
Right. I mean, and to your point, and doctor's a bad example because doctors have to take like 24-hour shifts because of the fear of shift change. So, I mean, that's even a terrible example, right? Because if your doctor falls ill in the middle of treating you, there's literally nobody else, right? It's crazy.
So, I've got one more policy. Do you think student loan forgiveness, a la Joe Biden's policy, infamously, you think it's a good policy or what? I have an opinion. I'll give it to you after.
Sure. I don't think it solves any problems. I don't think it fixes anything. I think it's temporary. It's a Band-Aid, right? It would help a lot of people. And because it would help a lot of people, I'm in favor of it. Student loan debt has been paused for a very long time now.
Repayment.
Yeah, repayment has been paused. So even if you owe $100,000, you haven't been making payments for a couple of years now. I mean, it's been since COVID, so it's been quite some time. I have to think if the government has been fine getting along without that money in that time span, they can continue to not get that money and it would be okay. So, and for the reasons that it would help people, and I don't think there would be really that many adverse effects to it, I'm in favor of it. It doesn't solve the problem, and it also is not a very good way to solve the problem because taxpayers foot the bill, right? If you absolve those student debts, that's money gone, right? So you got to make that money somehow. Taxes,
theoretically,
you can make the argument. Well, I'm a welder. I don't have any student loans. I've been doing just fine. Why should I have to pay more taxes? I don't get any benefit from student loans. Again, I don't agree with that. I've heard the argument, but overall, all things considered, I would do it, but you have to follow it up with some kind of like a cap on tuition price or something because there are other problems here and am I the poor sucker who's going to apply for student debt, the student loans the day after forgiveness and now I'm just on the hook for mine? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't fix anything.
So, yeah. Okay, I agree that it's not a silver bullet. It should be I agree that it would help people and therefore I think it would be a good idea to do it as a policy standalone. Also, to be most effective, you would need to forgive and then change the system so that the buildup won't happen again the same way. Because if you forgive and don't change anything else, in 10 years later, we're in the same spot. So also, I do want to say, because the big controversy with Biden's thing is that it's on hold because the Supreme Court is trying to determine if, as the president, did he have the authority constitutionally to wipe out the debt, right?
Yeah, and I'm no scholar, but the popular opinion seems to be that he absolutely does not.
It seems like no. So I do want to say that if truly it is unconstitutional for him to have done it the way he did it,
he shouldn't be able
then
to
it
do
shouldn't
it.
have.
Yes.
This shouldn't go, right? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't figure out a way for Congress to do it, or whoever has the authority. I'm assuming Congress to do it and appropriate the funds. So when I say I'm in favor of it, I'm just talking about the policy, not the means in which it gets approved.
I think having a free college option solves a lot of your problems because you can say, if you were going to couple the two things together, right? I wave a magic wand, all student loans currently active are deleted. And from this day forward, also you have options to go to college for free. Then I am in favor of that because you can still choose to take on student loan if you want to go to a college that is not free. That is your right. You can do that. But you have the option.
You're on the hook for that loan too.
Yeah, and you're on the hook for that loan. We're not going to help you out in the future. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then for everyone else, there are now free options. So if you choose not to, you have an option to go to college. Because for right now, a lot of people only have the choice. It's either I take out student loans or I don't go to college. So that's not a free market, right? You're on the hook for that. And also, in a lot of cases, right, I don't get a college degree, I'm not going to get a good job, I'm not going to get paid well. So you're stuck in this catch-22. Again, there are trade jobs out there, but not everybody can be a welder, right? Let's be real.
And I mean, let's be real. Like a lot of jobs, manual labor jobs, suck. I mean, they're not fun.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and you also shouldn't have to do a job you hate for your whole life just to get by, right?
Yeah.
I don't buy that one bit. So yeah, I mean, you should have an option to go pursue what you want to do. I mean, you only get one life, right? Like life's pretty short in the grand scheme of things. It goes by real quick. Don't waste it doing something that is just you hate but makes you money.
And I think this is where basic income fits into it too. So if you couple in the free college thing, there's a conversation to be had there about. I'm constantly thinking about the national debt because it's really an issue, and it bothers me about how the interest on our debt is going to be the entire U.S. budget in a couple of decades if we stay on the current trajectory. So there is a question about okay, now we're adding free college tuition for millions of people. That's got to be paid for. Do we need to cut Social Security? That has to be paid for, right? Social Security. But okay, so maybe I know when I turn 18, I graduate from college. I'm at high school. I graduate from high school. I know that I've got name your UPI, whatever, $1,000 a month. I know I'm cool there. So now there's not as much existential pressure on myself to go find a job that I hate but can pay the bills, or I don't have to start stressing about starting a career right away, because there is pressure on. I know I felt pressure when I went into college and right after college. Am I trying to get enough internships? Am I meeting the right people? Am I building my resume? And it's just constantly I'm in this system. I don't feel like I'm doing enough.
Yeah, so am I going to be able to get a job in my field when I graduate?
Right, just take a little of that pressure off because you know you've got some money no matter what. And some people aren't as mature as other people in the same time frame. When you turn 18, not everybody's ready to do the same thing as everyone else. So if people need a couple years to stay at home or whatever, travel around, figure it out, and then also pursue artistic ventures too, because I really think art's important. I really think our cities should be beautiful. I don't like going through a city and everything's just like a square and everything's ugly and it looks like there's no culture, there's no life.
Brutalist fans, leave your comments below.
Yeah, I don't know. I think things should be aesthetically pleasing, right? If I'm building a city in Minecraft, I want flowers everywhere and sculptures and gardens, right?
Well, yeah, it's like the old experiment, right? You ask somebody to describe a utopia,
Yeah.
It doesn't sound anything like
where we live,
an American city today, right?
Or any city on Earth.
Well, yeah, any city on Earth, right? I mean, it's just And you also, it's not like everybody's just got crazy ideas, right? There's some common themes running through. People like walkability. People like, dense downtowns where mixed use spaces,
Green
right?
space.
Yeah. That people hate anonymous architecture, right? I don't want to walk by a building and have no clue what it is. I like to see what's going on inside. Liveliness, right? I want plants. I want people around. I want, birds chirping, water features, stuff like that. I mean, it's just like,
and no cars either. I've never heard
Dude,
heard anybody have a car. I hate cars.
I love cars in terms of like, I'm a car fan, right? Like I'll go when the new cars for the new year models for cars come out. I'll go look at them and be like, ooh, that's nice. But like the fact that I have to drive 30 minutes to get anywhere, I hate that, right? It's a waste of my time. And self-driving cars are also not the answer. It's still a car. I want things that aren't 30 minutes away, right? I want my basic, because and we live like me especially like out in the boonies, right? Like I got a lot of space around me. You can preserve that and still have like some basic functions around. Like you can have a little clusters of people in a rural area and still have your walkability that you need and still have that community that's close by while having like plenty of nature around you. So
there's a distinction of like if you want to live in a city versus not in a city. Because I don't know, like it would be easy enough to have. I mean, I don't know about a train station on the mountain because
the incline railway.
You're right, but I mean, it would be easy enough to have a train station in a rural area every so often, to where maybe you just have to drive to the train station and go into the city that way. But I mean, having a downtown full of cars, miss me with that stuff.
There are rural train stations all over the world, though. Man, I've been to plenty of outside of the U.S. Now, in the U.S., they're non-existent, but in other countries, I've been to plenty of rural train stations where the train's like going through the forest and the jungle, right? And you don't see anything for like 30 minutes. And then you pull into like a tiny little train station. There's like, maybe 20 houses scattered around. They have a little general store. They have maybe a little restaurant, right? And it's just a small pack thing. And then there's a train station, and you're a 30-minute train ride from like a bigger place. So that little thing's not a town, but it's walkable. It's dense.
There's also culture there too, right? So
yeah,
and that's the thing. That's the thing I miss about college is that no matter where, and you can definitely, if you want to isolate, like if you need to be alone, you can make it happen, right? But like everywhere you go, it's a scene, right?
Yeah.
There's culture, there's life, and like even if I'm going down to eat breakfast, there's 100 people there. Stuff's going on. If I want to do, there are plays happening, right? So, and like if you're driving to a train station, instead of spending 45 minutes in your car by yourself every morning, on the train it's social, and you can maybe there's a bar there or whatever, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, or you just have friends that are going the same
out,
way, right? And they're in the train with you, and
you can talk about what you just shoot the breeze.
Yeah, it's just I mean, living an isolated lifestyle is not good for you. It's been proven study after study, right?
It's boring,
and we have just built our infrastructure around individualism, right? I have to own a car to get from point A to point B. I live in a house where there's nobody around me, right? And I have neighbors, but I don't know who they are. I don't know I've never talked to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wave at my neighbors when I go to the mailbox. I'll make small talk, but I'm not close with those people. In college, I knew the people in the dorm next door and pretty much everyone in my hall because I just walk by them all the time. And I've lived in apartments where it was the same, right? I didn't know the person living across the hall from me. So it's not even a proximity thing. It's a cultural thing.
Because in college because you all go to the same college, right? So there's, no matter what, you have that shared experience and you kind of a shared identity with them. Like, I have no clue who you are, but we go to the same college, so you gotta be cool, right? You gotta be at least halfway there,
Yeah.
There's something we have in common. And that's important. So
I know
Were we talking about student loans?
We're way off on this one. So to bring it all back, student loans are obviously a big problem. Multiple ways you can solve them. I don't think currently proposed solutions are really going anywhere. If we're being honest with ourselves, like we're not going to have this problem solved anytime soon. Universal basic income, which of course we're huge proponents of, it makes it easier to solve problems like this. It's not going to be a silver bullet, right? It's not going to solve all your problems. We're not delusional, right? We don't think, hey, you make it happen and everyone gets $2,000 a month or whatever it is, and now the world's a perfect happy place. No, but it helps, and it's a step in the right direction. I know we've been going on for quite some time, so I think we want to wrap it up. Any closing thoughts before we call it one?
I think I'm good. Just a reminder, we are $1,000 away from adding recipient number 2. And then after that, we will only be $400 away from increasing the payment from $10 to $11.
That's right.
So that's exciting. So send us some money.
Yeah, so donate if you can. If you can't donate monetarily, donate with your time by watching videos, this one, previous ones, future ones. Drop us a like, drop us a subscribe if you want to hear when the new episode comes out. We are trying to drop them Mondays at 5 as it currently stands. Maybe that schedule will change, maybe it won't. I'm going to do my best to get this one out tomorrow at 5 since it is Sunday night now. So that's the plan. Hit that subscribe though, and you'll get alerted as soon as we drop it. We are going to keep on getting these weekly episodes out for you. If you like in-person better than remote or remote better than person, we did remote last week. Let us know in the comments. We're always open. We are going to try to switch up the formats. But yeah, we appreciate your views. We appreciate your time. And thank you for watching.
See you next week.
Goodbye.